The Parachute Regiment is the airborne infantry regiment of the Indian Army. History. The first Indian airborne formation was the 50th Parachute Brigade, raised on 29 October 1941, consisting of 151 British, 152 Indian, and 153 Gurkha parachute battalions alongside other support units, LT, Agrangaraj, MVC, of the Indian Medical Service and RMO of the 152 Indian Para Battalion, became the first Indian along with Havildar Major Batura Singh to make a parachute descent, in 1942-43. The formation saw limited action at Nara against Pathan tribals in the northwest frontier province and conducted some intelligence gathering missions in Burma, utilizing the somewhat limited airborne capabilities. Later, in March 1944, the British Battalion, the Brigade, 154 Gurkha Para Battalion, saw extensive action at Sangshak and later in the Imphal Plains on the Burmese border against two reinforced Japanese divisions. 154 Gurkha Para Battalion had not completed its air training, so stayed back to attain the airborne status. During the Battle of Sangshak, which lasted 6 days, the brigade suffered extremely heavy casualties, totaling 40 officers and VCOs and 545 other ranks, winning the appreciation of Lt. Gen. William Slim, the commander of the British 14th Army. The breakout on the night of 26 March 1944 saw the remnants of the once proud Parachute Brigade fight its way south and then west through the Japanese-infested jungles to Imphal. It achieved its task of preventing the flanking Japanese forces from surrounding Imphal and destroying 4th Corps. Despite the losses it suffered in Sangshak, the paratroopers formed ad hoc units and continued to participate in actions to destroy Japanese forces near and around Imphal until its withdrawal at the end of July. Later in 1944, the brigade was expanded to form the 44th Indian Airborne Division, as the original 9th Airborne Division was to be named because the 44th Armored Division was to be converted to an airborne unit. The two ad hoc brigades from the Chindit Operations, 14th and the 77th, were included to form the division. The original plan was to have a battalion each of British, Indian and Gurkhas in both the parachute brigades, with the 14th being converted for the air landing role, though there is little known about glider-borne training or operations in India. 14th was later to be converted for the airborne role. The Governor-General's bodyguard joined the airborne fraternity and was named the 44th Airborne Division Reconnaissance Squadron. 9 Field Regiment and other support units too were inducted. 60th Indian Parachute Field Ambulance, which till then had been in Burma and performed well, was selected to augment the medical element for the formation. The 44th Indian Airborne Division was finally designated the 2nd Indian Airborne Division in 1945. The plan was to raise an entire airborne corps, with the 6th British Airborne Division to be brought to India as the 2nd Divisional formation, but the war ended before it could materialize. The regiment's first airborne action was towards the end of the Second World War, when a reinforced Gurkha Para Battalion was parachuted into Burma at Elephant Point on May 1, 1945, as part of Operation Dracula. The battalion performed well, earning the respect of all, including the critics of airborne warfare. The Indian Parachute Regiment was formed on 1 March 1945, consisting of 4 battalions and an equal number of independent companies. Despite the performance in Operation Dracula, the Indian Parachute Regiment was disbanded in late 1945 as part of the reduction and restructuring of the post-war British Indian Army. However, they retained their airborne role and formed part of the Airborne Division. After independence, the Airborne Division was divided between the armies of India and newly formed Pakistan, with India retaining 50th and 77th Brigades while Pakistan took possession of the 14th Parachute Brigade. In the post-independence restructuring, the Indian government retained only one airborne formation, 50 Independent Parachute Brigade. This brigade consisted of 3 distinguished battalions personally nominated by the then Commander-in-Chief, namely 1 Para, 2 Para and 3 Para. During the J&K operations of 1947–48, these battalions had distinguished themselves with glory in the battles of Shelatang, Naushera, Jonga and Poonch, after which they were awarded the respective battle honours. On the 15th of April 1952, the Parachute Regiment was raised by absorbing the 3 existing parachute battalions, namely 1st Battalion, the Punjab Regiment redesignated 1st Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, 3rd Battalion, the Maratha Light Infantry redesignated 2nd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment and 1st Battalion, the Kumar Own Regiment redesignated as 3rd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment. 1961 saw the raising of the 4th Battalion to augment the strength of the regiment. After the debacle of 1962, the regiment, as with the rest of the armed forces, saw expansion on an unprecedented scale, with the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Battalions being raised in a span of 2 years. During the 1965 war, an irregular force with volunteers from various infantry regiments under Major Meg Singh of the Brigade of the Guards carried out unconventional operations and achieved results disproportionate to its strength, and the need for unconventional forces was felt. The force had been disbanded and the volunteers reverted to their parent units. Major Meg Singh was tasked to raise a battalion for the purpose, resulting in the raising of 9 Para on the 1st of July 1966. The unit was originally raised as part of the Guards, but paratrooping being an integral part of Commando Special Operations became the 9th Battalion of the Parachute Regiment. 1 year later, on the 1st of July 1967, the battalion was split into 2 and 10 Para was raised. Currently, the regiment has 9 Special Forces battalions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 21 Para, and 5 Airborne battalions, 5, 6, 7, 23 and 29 Para. The regiment also has 2 Territorial Army battalions and 1 Rashtriya Rifles battalion. During their short but eventful existence so far, the battalions of the regiment have had extensive operational experience and singular achievements to speak of the level of professionalism. During the Indo-Pakistani War of 1971, the regiment fought numerous actions both in the eastern and western theatres. For the first time in the annals of independent India's history, a parachute battalion was dropped over Tangail, which contributed substantially to the speeding up of the liberation of Bangladesh. The para-commandos proved their professional skills by conducting spectacular lightning raids into Chhatro, Sindh and Mandhol, Jammu and Kashmir. The regiment earned the battle honours of Punli Bridge, Chhatro and defence of Poonch during these operations. 5 battalions of the regiment participated in Operation Vijay, with 6 Para in the lead. 50 Independent Parachute Brigade took part in Operation Cactus, the first successful overseas intervention operation to aid the duly elected government of the the Maldives. The parachute battalions employed counter-insurgency roles, both in the northeast and Jammu and Kashmir, have performed commendably, earning 11 COAS unit citations. In these operations, 11 personnel of the regiment were awarded the Parachute Chakra, the nation's highest gallantry award in peace. 9 para was conferred the Bravest of the Brave honor in 2001. In 1999, 9 out of 10 parachute battalions were deployed for Operation Vijay in Kargil, Jammu and Kashmir, which bears testimony to the operational profile of the regiment. While the Parachute Brigade cleared the Mushka Valley, 5 para was actively involved in the Battalion sector, where it exhibited great courage and tenacity, and was awarded the COAS unit citation. Calls of international peacekeeping have taken parachute units to Korea, Gaza and Sierra Leone. The latter was a daring rescue mission conducted by 2 para. In the field of adventure, the regiment's many achievements include the late Captain Azchima Edem, the first Indian atop Mount Everest, Col. SS Shekhawat, KCSC Edem, VSM, who scaled the peak thrice, and Maj. Abhijit Singh Edem. The Parachute Regiment depot and records was raised at Agra on 15 April 1952, to coincide with the raising of the regiment. All personal documents were transferred to depot and records from the Punjab, Maratha and Kumar-owned regiments. Simultaneously, a personal accounts office for the regiment was raised at Mathura as part of POW artillery. On 1 May 1962, a training wing of the Parachute Regiment was formed at Kota under the Brigade of the Guards Training Center, and thus started the direct recruitment and training of recruits for the Parachute Regiment. The regiment started augmenting its strength from 1961. About the same time, in order to ensure a better intake of recruits into the regiment, the raising of a training center was authorized on 13 March 1963, and the Government of India accorded sanction for raising of an independent training center. The executive order for raising the Parachute Regiment Training Center was received on the 22nd of June 1963. The Parachute Regiment Depot and Records designation was changed to the Parachute Regiment Training Center. The center was located at Agra Fort. The first batch of recruits from the Rajputana Rifles, Rajput, Sikh and Dogra regiments started arriving in the training battalions located at Carrier Camp. On 26 September 1963, the Parachute Regiment Training Wing at Kota joined the center. On 5 February 1965, the center moved to Mora Cantonment, Gwalior. The center, in addition to doing the normal training of infantry recruits, was also responsible for all parachute training. For this purpose, a para-holding wing was established on 1 April 1966. The para-holding wing was responsible for carrying out basic and reservist training for all active and reservist paratroopers. In war, the para-holding wing had the added responsibility of providing transit camp facilities for launching of an airborne operation. On 5 June 1967, the Parachute Regiment also moved from Mathura to Gwalior. On 2 October 1975, the Parachute Regiment Training Center, Records and POW moved to Agra. On 15 January 1977, the erstwhile para-holding wing was disbanded and additional staff and vehicles were authorized of the Parachute Regiment Training Center to carry out all of the above functions of the Parachute Holding Wing. Para-holding wing continued functioning from Carrier and its old name was retained. The para-holding wing thereafter merged with the Army Airborne Training School, Agra on 15 January 1992. On 15 January 1992, the Parachute Regiment Training Center along with the Records and POW The Para-regiment moved to Bangalore and occupied the erstwhile location of Pioneer Corps and Training Centre. Bangalore is the new key location project of the centre. Insignia. The regimental badge for the Parachute Regiment is an open parachute, partially behind a circle with the word Parachute at the top and a scroll at the bottom with the word Regiment. Wings are spread out from the circle, and a dagger is superimposed on the parachute and upper portion of the circle, the whole in silver metal. As with much of the world's parachute forces, the normal headgear is a maroon beret, although there is a maroon turban for Sikh personnel. The Special Forces, which form part of the Parachute Regiment, have a distinct insignia called Balidaan, which has a commando dagger point downwards, with upward extending wings extending from the blade and a scroll superimposed on the blade with Balidaan inscribed in Devanagari, the whole in silver metal on an upright red plastic rectangle. The Special Forces personnel also wear a maroon curved shoulder title with Special Forces embroidered in light blue, succeeding the Commando tab in 2006 was in use since inception. There remains a single Airborne brevet, an open parachute in white, with light blue wings extended from it, the whole on a grey-green drab background. Worn on the left pocket is jump indicator wings. The small enamelled badge has now been replaced by a brass badge with stars at the bottom of the parachute, with 1 star denoting 25 jumps, 2 stars 50 and 3 stars 100. Post-war developments. Indian independence, partition and formation of Pakistan. On independence in 1947, the Airborne Division was divided between the Indian Army and the Army of the newly formed Pakistan, with India retaining the divisional HQ and the 50th and the 77th Parachute Brigades, with the 14 Parachute Brigade going to Pakistan. The 77th Indian Parachute Brigade was later disbanded. On April 15, 1952, the Parachute Regiment was re-raised by absorbing the 3 infantry battalions which formed the 50th Parachute Brigade and had been carrying out parachute duties post the disbandment of the regiment. These units had continued to wear the uniform of the parent regiments except for a change in headgear to maroon beret, the crown of the Airborne worldwide, and to distinguish them from the other battalions of the regiments, the word para added after the name, namely, 1st Battalion the Punjab Regiment, later 1st Battalion Parachute Regiment, 3rd Battalion the Maratha Light Infantry, later 2nd Battalion Parachute Regiment, 1st Battalion the Kumar Own Regiment, later 3rd Battalion Parachute Regiment. Kashmir Operations. Both 50th and 77th Parachute Brigades saw extensive action in the Kashmir operations of 1947–49. The 3 parachute battalions and the support units of the 50th Para-BDE saw extensive action in the 1947–48 war in Kashmir, and the battalions won a battle honour each in the respective sectors. The brigade commander, Brig. Muhammad Usman, was killed in action on July 3, 1948, and awarded the Mahavir Chakra posthumously. 60 parachute field ambulance as part of the 50 Para-BDE also saw action in Kashmir, where it raised and maintained the now famous Cariappa Hospital, catering to the needs of numerous units in its vicinity, and constantly faced shortages due to the war situation and inclement weather conditions. The unit's performance, like other units of the Parachute Brigade, was beyond all expectations and resulted in the awarding of numerous gallantry awards, including a Vir Chakra to Captain V. Rangaswamy, the surgeon. 60 Parachute Field Ambulance and the Korean War. With the Communist invasion of South Korea in 1950, the UN sent out a call to the free world for assistance. India decided not to get involved militarily but contributed a medical unit, the 60 Parachute Field Ambulance, which served in Korea for a total of 4 years. 60 PFA was involved in providing medical cover to the forces of the UN command as well as the ROK Army and local civilians, and earned the title, the Maroon Angels. The unit also looked after the North Korean POWs. The highlight of the tenure undoubtedly was when the unit provided the services during Operation Tomahawk on the 21st of March 1951 to the U.S. Army's 187th Airborne Regimental Combat Team, for which the unit was awarded 2 Mahavir Chakras, 1 Batavir Chakra and 6 Vir Chakras, and a host of other Indian and international individual and unit decorations. These included the unit citations from the U.S. and South Korean Army chiefs, commendations from the Commonwealth Division as well as the British commanders. There was a special mention of the unit in the House of Lords in the British Parliament in London. The 12 members of the unit who participated in the airborne operation were also awarded the U.S. Parachute Wings. On the return to India, the unit was awarded the President's Trophy by the first President of the Republic of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, on the 10th of March 1955 at Agra, the first one of its kind and the only one to date. The troops of the unit were also awarded 25 mentioned in dispatches. Re-raising after independence. Raising of Parachute Regiment. In April 1952, these battalions were rebadged as the new Parachute Regiment along with its own depot and records, and were taken away from the parent regiments. A new formation signed Shatrujeet replaced the Pegasus, which the airborne formation had continued to use until 1952. On the raising of the Parachute Regiment depot in 1952, the 3 battalions were designated as follows: 1st Battalion, the Parachute Regiment; 2nd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment; 3rd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment. Of the original units of 50 Parachute Brigade, only 2 exist as of date, namely 411 Parachute Field Company of the Bombay Sappers, the oldest parachute unit of the Indian Army, and 50 Parachute Brigade Signal Company. The original medical unit, 80 Parachute Field Ambulance, was departed, and only 1 field ambulance, 60 Parachute Field Ambulance, was retained in the airborne role. The other minor units followed suit. The Governor-General's bodyguard was retained in the Pathfinder role. The 4th Battalion was raised on 1 August 1961 as the need was felt to increase the strength of the regiment. After the Chinese debacle of 1962, when the need to have a larger army was felt, the Parachute Regiment too had its share of expansion, with the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Battalions being raised in a span of 2 years. A 2nd Parachute Brigade, the 51st, was also raised to complement the 50th Brigade but was reverted to normal infantry role in 1976. Meghdood Force and the raising of the Para-Commandos. In the 1965 war, a small band of volunteers under a Guards officer, Marj Meg Singh, performed feats which necessitated it to be formed into a Special Operations Unit, originally to form part of the Brigade of the Guards, but due to the parachute qualification being an essential part of commando training, the unit was transferred to the Parachute Regiment and raised as the 9th Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, on July 1, 1966. On July 1, 1967, the battalion was split into two and both brought up to strength as the 9th and the 10th Para-Commando Battalions. In 1978, 1st Parabien was designated as the 3rd Commando Battalion. The three commando battalions performed in all theatres of combat India was involved in. The IPKF operations in Sri Lanka necessitated the three battalions to be integrated for smooth conduct and coordination of operations, and the HQ Special Forces was raised. On 1 February 1996, 21st Battalion, the Mirata Light Infantry was officially redesignated as the 21st Battalion, though it was under conversion since 1994. In 1999, 2 Parabien was also converted to Special Forces, followed a few years later by the 3rd and the 4th Battalions. In 2010, 11 Para-SF was raised in Agra to augment the strength of the Special Forces. 1971 War. In 1971, the regiment saw numerous actions both in the eastern and western theatres. For the first time in the annals of independent India's history, a para-battalion group was dropped at Tangail, which contributed substantially to speeding up the liberation of Bangladesh. Elements of the 2nd BN became the first Indian troops to enter Dhaka. The para-commandos proved their professional skills by conducting spectacular lightning raids into Chatro and Mandhol. The regiment earned battle honours Punli Bridge, Chatro, Mandhol and defence of Poonch during these operations, while the 51 Para Brigade saw action in Sri Ganganagar in Rajasthan. 50th Parachute Brigade saw action initially in Bangladesh with 2 Para in the airborne role and 7 Para as the advance guard, and the rest of the brigade in a ground role, and then moved to assist its sister brigade in the western sector, thus becoming the only formation to see action on both fronts. 1980-present. Operation Pawan. 5 parachute battalions took part in Operation Pawan, the Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka. Operation Cactus, with 6 Para as its spearhead and 7 Para as reserve. The 50 Parachute Brigade took part in Operation Cactus in November 1988, the first successful overseas intervention operation since Korea to aid the duly elected government of Maldives. Counterinsurgency operations. Parachute battalions have been employed in counter-insurgency role, both in Northeast and Jammu and Amp, Kashmir, earning 15 COAS unit citations. The Ashok Chakra, India's highest gallantry award in peace, has been awarded posthumously to Captain Arun Jasrosha, Edem Major Sudhir Kumar Walia, Edem ***, PTR Sanjog Chetri, all from 9 Para. Captain R. Harshav 2 Para, HAV Bahadur Singh Bora, HAV Gajendra Singh, the last 2 belonging to 10 Para. 9 Para has been conferred the Bravest of the Brave honour in 2001. In 2009, Captain Shabir Malik was posthumously awarded the Kirti Chakra for his determination, grit, cool confidence and raw courage in the face of enemy in the highest spirit and traditions of the Indian Army and the regiment. Maj Mohat Sharma of 1 Para became the latest recipient of the Ashok Chakra of the regiment in 2010. Operation Vijay in 1999, 9 out of 10 parachute battalions were deployed for Op Vijay in Kargil, which bears testimony to the operational profile of the regiment. While elements of the Parachute Brigade cleared the Mushko Valley intrusions, 5 Para was actively involved in the forgotten sector Batalak, where it exhibited great courage and tenacity, and was awarded the COAS unit citation. United Nations operations. Calls of international peacekeeping have taken parachute units to Korea, Gaza, UNAMSIL in Sierra Leone, Congo, Sudan and Ethiopia, Eritrea, The operations in Sierra Leone involved a daring rescue mission conducted by the two The parachute battalions also have officers PBO are serving in staff or as observers with various United Nations missions. Also of note is that the recent military advisor to the UN Secretary-General for UN peacekeeping operations was Lt. Gen. Karia, who belongs to the Parachute Regiment of the Indian Army. Mountaineering and South Pole Expedition. The Parachute Regiment has been active in the field of mountaineering for very long. The late Captain Avtar Singh Chima Edem of 7 Para was the first Indian atop Mount Everest in 1965. Captain Abhijit Singh from 7 Para also summited the peak, while Colonel Saurabh Singh Shekhawat KCSC Edem VSM scaled the peak thrice apart from scaling peaks in the French Alps and in Africa. The Parachute Regiment scaled Nanda Devi in 1981 when they attempted both main and east peaks simultaneously. The southwest face of Nanda Devi East was climbed for the first time, but both summiters, Premjit Lal and Fudorji, were killed in the descent. 3 others, Daya Chand, Ram Singh, and Lakha Singh, also fell to their deaths, leading to the highest ever number of casualties on the mountain. Majai Baraguna, a famous climber of the Corps of Engineers who died on Everest, also served with the 50th Parachute Brigade. Majgen Modamin Nayak and Colonel Anand Swarup Edem, also of the Corps of Engineers, summited Nanda Devi in 1993. Marjan Linu of 60 Para is the first lady officer paratrooper who has participated in numerous expeditions in the Himalayas. She summited the Everest in May 2012. She is also an accomplished skydiver. Kol J.K. Bajaj Edem VSM, a para-EME who commanded 2 Parafield WKSP, became the first Asian to ski to the South Pole with the Overland International Expedition to plant the Indian flag at the South Pole on 17 January 1989. Colonel Balwant Sandhu and Kol J.K. Bajaj have commanded the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in Uttarkashi.